Good afternoon. My name is Greg Shin. We're here today with Home Improvement University. We're going to show you how to measure your house for a base map so you can design your landscape. This is a residential tract home subdivision, but the principles that we're going to show you here will apply to your property, whether it's a large property or a small property. Our design project today is going to be the front yard of this house. In order to do this, we need a map that accurately locates all of the items in the front yard. To do this, we need to take measurements, and that's what I'm going to show you today. To take your measurements, make sure that you have a tape measure that's of sufficient length to measure your whole yard. I like something like a 100-footer like this. It rolls out easily and it winds up quickly. You can get these at your local home improvement store for maybe 20-25 bucks. The first thing you need to do is sketch out the outline of your home and your property so you have a place to record the measurements that you take. In this case, you see I've drawn the outline of the home. I've marked where the windows are, where the doors are, and where the garage doors is, and I've laid in where the walks and the driveway are. Don't get concerned about neatness, and don't be concerned about drawing it to scale. This is just to record the measurements that we take. When you go to measure your house, it's best to have an assistant with you. Today I have John Anderson helping me. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take dimensions from the corner of the house to the edge of the window, the width of the window, to the edge of the column, and to the far end of the column over here. Now, in order to do this, we're going to keep it simple. You don't need to measure each dimension. Do what we call stringing the dimensions. That means you keep adding them together as we go. You'll see what I mean. 7'4". Pull it tight to it. 9'10". Now you notice when I did this, I didn't concern myself with this little bump out on the wall. It's just not that important to the overall project. You also notice that all my numbers were in increments of 2 inches. Don't concern yourself with a half an inch, a quarter of an inch. It's just not that important. By stringing our dimensions together, the overall dimension will be the same, even though we rounded the individual numbers to 2 inches. Now what we've done is we've taken all the measurements that we made and we've transposed them onto our base map sketch here. As you see, we've put like 3'4", 6'8", 7'4", and 9'10" were the measurements we took in the front. You notice now that we know that the window is between 3'4" and 6'8". It doesn't really matter how you choose to write your dimensions on your plan. One thing that works for me though is if it's a horizontal dimension, write your number horizontally. If it's a vertical dimension this way on the plan, write your number vertically. That way when you go to create your base map, you'll know what your measurement means. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the hardscape elements on your property. Now you're going to hear this term hardscape from me throughout all the videos that we do. What this means is the walks, the walls, columns, any items that are made of masonry or paving or anything like that, any hard elements, hence the term hardscape. We're going to measure the street and the sidewalks in front of the house. We're going to do this the same way by stringing our dimensions. "30 feet and 33 feet. In order to make sure that we know whether the street is parallel to the house, we're going to measure again from the other side of the house, so we have 2 sets of dimensions out to the street. We've now added the hardscape dimensions onto our base sketch here, and you see I've added a new symbol. In this case, I've put a line across the sidewalk and another one across the driveway, with a slash at either end and a dimension in between. That means that this dimension goes from there to there, and that's helpful when you're trying to dimension the width of something like this. But again, don't get caught up in your symbols. This is only a worksheet for you to use to create your base map. The last thing that we're going to show you is how to locate an item that's floating out in the middle of the yard. In this case, there's a tree that's out here, Now you could try and line this tree up with a wall and figure out how far off it is, but I can guarantee you that you'll get it wrong. So what we're going to do is show you absolutely the way to measure that spot so that you know exactly where that tree or any other item in your yard is located. We're going to take two known points, like corners of the house, and we're going to measure the distance to that tree. Then I'm going to show you why, unlike high school, geometry is your friend in this case. Now we're going to record those dimensions on the plan here. But first I want to mention, some of you probably caught that I gave a dimension of 13.3 and I told you earlier to stick with plus or minus 2 inches. There's a reason for this. It's because the triangulation method, it's very important that you get the exact distance. So in these cases, I would get at least to the inch, maybe to the half an inch if it really matters where the item is located. Now I'm going to show those two dimensions like this. 13 foot 3 inches. And I'm going to show this one like this. And this was 11 foot 7 inches. Now I've shown the two corners that I measured from. Now here's the trick. Here's what happens. When you measure 13 feet 3 inches out, that could be a point anywhere along this arc that's measured by going 13 feet out and around. This point is 11 foot 7 and would capture an arc something like this. So the only place that those two arcs will meet is at the location of the item that you were trying to locate. Now you notice this is starting to get kind of messy in here. I really wouldn't worry about that. As long as you can read your writing and you know what you measured, that's all that's important on this. Some people like to add more colors to their drawing so it's easier to read. Whatever works for you, this is your plan in your backyard or your yard. Now, the one thing I haven't shown you because of the property we're on is what happens if you had a driveway that did something like this. Now I realize that's exaggerated, but I'd like to make my point here. So I haven't really shown you how to do this. In this case, you're going to use the same triangulation that we learned for the tree and the electrical box. You can come out here to any point you want. You can take as many points as you think you need to sketch in that line. In this case, you might take your tape measure and go out here, put a little X in the dirt next to the driveway, and measure your 2 points. I should use red so we can see it better. Come out here to another point. They don't have to be evenly spaced. You can take some, and then if you need more, go back and take more. And do the same thing. Take these. You do this all the way down, as many points as you need. And you sketch in the curve in between those points. You take that dimension and that dimension. And this will give you those points, and then you sketch in the rest of the driveway in between those points. In this video, we've taught you how to collect the measurements that you're going to need to create your scaled landscape base map. We've learned to start with a house, to string the dimensions together, to measure to the street in 2 locations so that you get the angle of the street correct. We've taught you how to measure the hardscape. We've taught you how to triangulate the floating element like trees and other things that are in the middle of the yard. And we've showed you how to triangulate to get curves on a driveway or a wall. In the next video, we're going to show you how to take these dimensions and turn them into that scaled drawing. My name is Greg Shin. Thanks to John Anderson for helping me, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Home Improvement U video.